Reuven Lev ben Chana, Miriam bat Matilda, and also and main for the merit of Rachel Chaya bat Sarah. She is our partner in learning. Rabotai, Parashat Beshalach. What would you like me to talk about? I'm not going to talk about psh. I want to talk about something different. This year, as you can see, we're taking different roads, but that's especially for you, Eitan. It says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, and Hashem said to Moshe, Ktov zot zikaron basefer, write this as a note of commemoration in the book, Vesim be'oznei Yehoshua, and you should put this in the ears of Yehoshua, and that's in Parashat Ki Tetzeh. Macho emche et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim. Right? You should erase this. We say this in Parashat Ki Tetzeh at the end of the parasha, Mechiat zecher Amalek, but really this comes from here now. Macho emche, I would erase zecher Amalek. Of course, it's very interesting because in Parashat Ki Tetzeh it says Timche, we should erase. And here it says, Macho emche, I will erase. Vayavan Moshe Mizbeach vayishkra shemo Hashem Nisi, and Moshe is building a altar, and he calls it God is my miracle. Vayomer ki yad al kesya milchama leHashem be'Amalek midor dor. And that is a long story, historical story of a battle of God or whatever is with Amalek for generations. So I'm going to talk to you about two things now. I'm going to talk a little bit about Amalek, and then we'll see about other things. And again, how does it reflect to our lives? At the end of the Milchama of Amalek, and I would say it a little bit of order. At the end of the war that they had with Amalek, Moshe was commanded to write this to write this down. The Mechiyat Zecher Amalek, erasing the memory of Amalek. Doesn't say to kill, is erasing the memory. Rav Hirsch says that the Mechiyah, the eraser, is of Zecher Amalek. Not the killing, the Zecher, the memory of Amalek. Not Amalek itself, but his glory, his history of Amalek. And that it's interesting to know that the Zecher, the memorization of Amalek, is what will cause bad things to happen to the to humankind's or to humanity moral future. We're talking about concepts, not necessarily specific group of people. As the Gra says in Masechet Megillah, it says that Germania is Amalek. That therefore you see that every nation that has certain morals that are shared with Amalek are considered to be the Amalek of the generation. So one time it could be the Germans, one time it could be the Palestinians, one time it could be whoever that would be. As long as human history books would crowns of glory to very shallow, celebrities, to fighters, to killers. Yes, even MMAs, and so they are celebrities. As long as they do so, as long as people who suffocate men's happiness, and they continue doing that will mean the Zecher of Amalek would stay. And as long as we do so, our children will look at admiration to those people who are gangsters and killers and so on and so forth, whether it's Che Guevara or whether it's, what's his name, Al Pacino, what's his name? No, the guy, what's his name? No, Al Dignola, no. The guy, the big gangster, what's his name?
Capone?
Al Capone. Right, Al Capone, everybody wants to be like Capone. Or any other gangsters who go like this, and guess what? Sometimes they run into office and they become people of power, and we admire these people. Look at the people that we admire, and it will tell you a lot about us, about what we are and what we made of and what our values are. Who are the biggest celebrities in this generation? People who are not faithful to their spouses, people that are molesters. It's terrible. I mean, really horrible. So, as long as that, we have this memory, people would like to be like them. As long as we do that. The erasal, therefore, the erasing of the memory of Amalek is, together with that, is the erasal of corruption and moral corruption, which comes and evolves from people who are like this, so shallow and so bad in terms of that. And therefore, on the other hand, strengthening what we call Torat HaMusar, proper morals, and proper morals that were given us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are the ultimate purpose of Hashgacha, the providence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our history. The battle that they had, and the winning of Am Yisrael over Amalek is basically a first step in making this plan, getting it into motion. In other words, establishing God's morals in the world rather than humankind morals that are not always the right ones. Again, if you have a problem with what I'm saying, look at the people that we admire. Or, us, for example, our society. Look at who your leaders are. Who are the people that we all, wow, I took a picture with. Who you take selfies with. Should tell you a lot about where are you holding and where are you staying. What are you interested in? I mean, without saying that, a person could be a great basketball player, and then all of a sudden, together with his disappearing from the world, we forgot all the other things that he did and settled down for a few millions of dollars for other accusations. And you know what I'm talking about. What are we celebrating? Who are the heroes of our culture? So the response of Moshe for that understanding of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them is building a mizbeach, building an altar. The Rav Hirsch says that building an altar was also the response of Yaakov Avinu when he was fighting with the angel, which was the minister of Esav, which from him came Amalek. Yaakov Avinu did something similar. He built a mizbeach. So we see that there's maybe a certain correlation between building a mizbeach and fighting those forces of evil, let's call it this way, in the world. And he writes the following, and Rav Hirsch writes the following: Gdulato shel Amalek hi bekoach haheres. The greatness of Amalek is in his power of destruction. Shlichuto shel Israel, the job of a Jew, hi bekoach habniya, is to build in construction, not destruction. Heve Omer, therefore it says, Hakabato, haramato shel kol davar artzi lifnei Hashem. It is ridiculous what he's saying here, and I translate: establishing and elevating of everything that is earthy, to bring it in front of Hashem, and how? In the ways of peace and humanity. In other words, you cannot tell me that you are doing something great for Hashem and you're elevating God's name when all you do is create troubles, creates wars, creates disputes, creates fights and arguments in a very unhumane way. That's not the way of Hashem. That's not going to bring greatness to Hashem. And we have to remember that. Everybody likes to put the badge of himself of a zealous. Oh, I'm a zealous, I'm a kanai. But the zealous is, first of all, be zealous to Hashem. Be concerned with what Hashem wants you, with His name, not with the badge that you're going to get here. God will give you that if you do things the right way. Not everybody can come and take Hashem's name and wave the flag of, oh, I'm so great, I'm so wonderful. This is not for Hashem, this is for you. We have to be very, very careful. And so therefore our job is to elevate everything that is earthy, to bring it up. It's the same thing as we do in the Mizbeach. What do we do when we bring a korban? What does Kohen does? He manif. He lifts it up. And then he puts it in the Mizbeach. Hanafa, inaugurated in front of Hashem. In a very peaceful and humane. Why peace? Darkei darkei noam. V'chol netivotea shalom. Shalom is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All the netivim, all the paths have to be appropriate to bear God's name on it. You want an indicator of how to do things? Well, that's how it is. Straight out. Have a nice week. No, I'm just kidding. Still have a lot to say. You guys eat Chinese food, I'll talk. So Moshe builds the Mizbeach as an expression for the mission of Am Yisrael in building the world and fixing the world. On the Mizbeach would bring korbanot to Hashem, and therefore the Mizbeach represents what he calls Chazon ha'alato shel davar gashmi el Hashem, a vision of elevating everything to Hashem. That's what Rav Hirsch over there says. Chazon zeh, this vision is really building the world completely opposite to the forces that we have today. And the forces are swords and weapons of destruction, that the intent is to destroy, not to bring peace and to build. I do believe, I am no expert in issues like that the world today there's always war going on, because the establishment of the world and the country that we have today was built as a result of a war, not a result of peace. The whole problem with the Middle East, yes, I know, the British and the French messed it up like anywhere else that they touched, they messed up. I think if we could bring the British and the French to court-martial, when we should have done this, because everywhere they went, they created chaos. Why? Because every place they went to war. They were power of destruction. They went to war. The United States is a little different. They're not really colonialized places. But still, it's not perfect. This is our job. Now, you know, I've been taking martial arts for, since 1985. So it's not a contradiction, because if you learn something about martial arts, the first movement in every kata is always a defensive kata. You don't attack, you defend. So there are also ways of peace. Doesn't mean you have to be weak. That does not mean that you are weak. But you always need to make peace. You always need to come forward to peace. Give all the effort that you can for that. No, it doesn't make a difference if that's in a shul, in a congregation. It doesn't make a difference if that's in a country, or between a husband and wife, or between a friend to another friend. Your intent always has to be towards bringing harmony and bringing things together. When there is animosity, there is anger, there's destruction. That's the power of Amalek. And so therefore you might ask the following. He says, 1 second. How does the Mizbeach have to do with that? Well, the answer is very simple. If you know that we're not allowed to lift any iron or to excavate any of the stones of the Mizbeach with iron. Lo tanif alea cherev. Don't swing a sword over that. I love swords, but on my wall, not in, Anybody wants to buy me a sword? So how is it possible? How could I say what I just said, that you're not allowed to lift a sword over the Mizbeach, but what do we do in the Mizbeach? We kill in the Mizbeach, right? So it says, and I'm quoting what he's saying, Rav Hirsch again, Teudat HaMizbeach eina stirat ha'chaim. The existence of, or the awareness of the Mizbeach, of the altar, is not a contradiction of life, but rather binyanam, building life. Velo acherev marshir hakoach ve'alimut, and not the sword, which is the force of violence and power. Titkadesh al yedei mizbeach Israel. That you cannot sanctify the Mizbeach. Building the Mizbeach is a monument for celebration of construction over destruction, and that the destruction is represented by Amalek. You can see it almost bechush, in a sixth sense. There are certain people that are always divided. They never settle down. They're always manipulating, and they have a klippah from Amalek. They have a klippah from Amalek. They have a part of the Erev Rav, a klippah of Amalek. These are the people who always puts them apart, and I'll show you why later on. So you should know that building the Mizbeach was monumental and important, not only for that time, but also for our time as well. That building of the Mizbeach represents that at the end of time, Be'acharit Hayamim, as I'm quoting now, Tit'ale kol ha'aretz v'tiyaseh le'mizbeach le'Hashem. The whole entire land, the whole entire earth is going to be an altar for Hashem, a celebration of building. And this is exactly the opposite of what Amalek tries to do. That brings us, that's the introduction concept, that brings us to a certain event that is very bizarre that happened. And that's called Mara. It's very interesting. If you know a little bit about the topography of the area, geography of the area, in the Suez Canal, before there was a Suez Canal, there was a desert and some swamps and lakes and stuff like that over there. And one of the lakes is called the Bitter Large Lake or the smaller Bitter Lake. And the water there are very, you can't drink it. They're very bad. However, that's not necessarily the original bitter lake that they had there. And what happened? This is interesting. So the experience in which Am Yisrael had in the place called Mara is quite mysterious, and it's quite an enigma. We don't really know exactly what happened there. The Torah does not attribute to Am Yisrael any specific sin that came beforehand, and as a result of that, they got bitter water. So we don't also know exactly what was the tree or the wood in which Moshe Rabbeinu threw in the water, and what was exactly HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Moshe to do. And that also was the first interaction of Am Yisrael with pure evil. With pure evil. Amalek that represents this kind of evil, right, came afterwards, but it should be maybe the other way around. Am Yisrael had doubts, but Mara came before they went to Amalek, and later on they went to Rephidim, and over there it describes that they had a chet, and the chet that they had was a doubt in the existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or should I say, in the unity of God, and they thought maybe there's an issue of duality here. If we going to stop 1 second, I was surprised that you said 1 second, pure evil. They were in Mitzrayim, they were in Egypt. However, the oppression that the Jews had in Egypt is not necessarily pure evil, because for selfish reasons they oppressed the Jews. They were afraid the Jews are going to overpopulate them. So it was very selfish and very practical ways to oppress the Jews, to keep them low, for them growing. But it wasn't just pure evil for the sake of evil. That wasn't in Mitzrayim. In the first time that they have such an experience and such a miraculous thing that they all experience as a collective, was in Mara. However, we should understand that was a part of a process of initiation. The bitter water was a part of initiation. And was a stage in understanding the concept of one God. If it wasn't for this experience, and to the awareness that there is also evil in the world, Bnei Israel could have been mistaken. Why? maybe there is a reality of duality. In other words, there are two types of gods, or two types of power, the yin and the yang, the bad and the good, right? Or maybe of a good God and a bad God, God against Satan. You heard in many other religions and so on and so forth. Shiva and somebody else, the god of destruction. I don't know exactly who is the lingam and the shanti, all this stuff like this. Yoni, it's duality. Most of the world is the concept of duality. We don't have that, and that was solved in the very beginning with the experience they had in Mara. So in the Mechilta, he brought the Chachamim try to understand. The Chachamim tried to understand exactly what was this tree that he threw, the wood that he threw in, not a tree, the wood that he threw into the water. And maybe through figuring out also what was this experience in which they had to go through. So they were quite in a dispute about the identity of this wood tree, but they were all on the same page that we're talking about a tree that had a very bitter taste to it, which is quite interesting. If I, for example, have something bitter, if I want to make it not bitter, what would I do? I put sweet, sugar. Here it's the other way around. The Mechilta tells us it was the other way around. And according to that concept of Chachamim and the Mechilta, the whole purpose of this experience was to tell us the koach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the ability that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, to turn bitter into sweet in something more bitter than it. And it's really against what we, And I'll tell you something. When I was a kid, I used to love to go to the beach. I used to swim a lot. I love swimming. So when you drink water. What taste does the water have? Nothing. No bitter. Who said bitter? Who said bitter? Fire yourself. No bitter. Water has no flavor. Water has no flavor. Tasteless. When you swim in the ocean and you get salt in your mouth, and then you go to drink water, all of a sudden the water is very sweet. You realize, oh wow, that's sweet. So, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu does it different. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes something very bitter and takes something bitter and makes it sweet. And that's interesting. Why? For us to be a lesson and as a sign for us to tell us of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu conducts in a miraculous way his ways with us and with the world. Because it doesn't make sense. So therefore it's a miracle that taking something that is extremely bitter, putting something bitter and then makes it sweet. That's a miracle. To teach us that. Among the different trees that were mentioned in the Mechilta, what really jumped at me is when we talk about Etz HaChaim, the tree of life. And tree of life in Sefer HaBahir, in the Piska, in the chapter of 161 and 163, it says in the beginning, Etz HaChaim, the tree of life, was around water. And that made the water sweet. Okay, again, listen to the words I'm saying to you. Tree of life and water. So that tree, Etz HaChaim, was able to sweeten the water for us to consume. The Satan came from there and removed it out of there, and therefore it caused the water to become bitter. Why? To make the people thirsty. Now, you know me, I'm not a devils and demon type of a person, but it is a tremendous metaphor of how do we deal with things and how things happen, and why do bad things happen to us, and so on and so forth. And it's very important to understand that. So the water in that lake originally was sweet. Why? Because of the tree that was there. Comes the Satan, removes it. Am Yisrael was vulnerable. I explained to you in the morning the whole concept of awakening Midat Adin and what we need to do to make it together. But still, Am Yisrael, Midat Adin was still out. Am Yisrael was not united. They only united when they sang, but then afterwards they start complaining again. As we said, why should I go with you? He's from a different shevet, I'm from a better shevet, I'm this, I'm from, different city, different town, So Midat Adin was out. He pulled out Midat Adin. Now the water was bitter in order to make the people thirsty. Now the people will complain. Knowing the Jews, they're a bunch of complainers. So now the water is going to be bad. They're going to be thirsty. They're going to complain. HaKadosh is going to zap them. Now he's going to allow Midat Adin to zap them. So that was pure evil. That act was pure evil. Why? Because the Satan, what he tried to do is to remove Am Yisrael from Etz HaChaim, and by removing Am Yisrael from Etz HaChaim, basically, Chas v'Shalom, eliminating Am Yisrael. That's pure evil. So the Torah, which is very interesting, is if you take the tree and you throw it into the water, and now the water is sweet and is drinkable, so why do you call it mara? You should call it mei metuka, because now it's sweet water, it's not bitter water. Why did the Torah chose to stay with the word mara? Because probably is to engrave in our collective memory the whole essence or the whole experience of this very dramatic and very traumatic experience or encounter that we had with pure evil. Together with this interaction, there's always difficulties, there's always bitterness that comes out from this, there's frustration that comes out from that. However, this comes to teach you the emunah in one God. How is that? Ezra ben Shlomo Migirona from Gerona in Spain, in his book Sod Etz Hadat, explains the following: that the existence, and I'm quoting, the existence of evil in the world is rooted and caused by the sin of Adam HaRishon, Adam and Eve. And why is that? Shehevdil et hara mimekoro hatov. He separated the evil from its good source. So even though that there was bad things, still there was something good in its root. Therefore, we had the potential to bring it back or let the roots overcome it and then make it good. He's disconnected it from its root, or from its good root. By doing so, created the concept of pure evil. There was evil, there was bad, but this became pure evil with no good into it because it was disconnected. And there were two trees. There was Etz HaChaim ve'Etz HaDaat. And those two trees, the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, grew up in the garden, and they grew from an identical trunk. In other words, like a chopsticks. They were like this: Etz HaChaim, Etz HaDaat, growing from here. Sometimes you see it. They were grafted in this interesting way, and then like we do the chopstick, we break it up, and now we got two different things that are completely disconnected. And as long as they were united, Etz HaChaim had control and influence over Etz HaDaat as well. Or actually, should I say, over the evil, the bad that existed in Etz HaDaat. Etz HaChaim is all good. Etz HaDaat has good and bad in it. But when they were connected together, right, Etz HaChaim was able to influence the bad part in Etz HaDaat. Etz HaDaat is the knowledge that we have. Adam HaRishon, his sin was, as we say, kitzetz banetiot. Kitzetz banetiot, he chopped it, he pruned it in the wrong way. That's the expression that we use for a person who actually goes off the derech. Kitzetz banetiot, he went off the derech. In other words, when he separated Etz Hadat from Etz HaChaim, he gave freedom to the power that was in Etz Hadat to express itself without the counterbalance of Etz HaChaim, and by doing so, he created pure evil. If we see and we look all of a sudden at so many different things that we have in life, whether it's the Kehuna and the Malchut, it is always checks and balances. You can't have a Jewish king without Sanhedrin or Kehuna on the other side for him. To balance, because then it's a trip, it's an ego trip to its power. We need to balance it out, right? Everything that we have has to be balanced. In shuls, for example, yes, you need to have the balabatim who shakers and movers and they move things around, and yet they have to have the rabbi, the Da'at Torah, that balance their ability to turn a shul into a bingo hall or into a wedding hall, assuming that the rabbi is capable of doing that, right? That's Etz HaChaim. He representative of Etz HaChaim, the tree of life. So, a similar idea, by the way, we could see in the Gemara that talks about Am Yisrael Az Sheba'amim. The Jewish people are the mightiest of all nations. Now, give me a break. What mightiest of all nations? The Gemara says that when you remove Am Yisrael from its Torah, when you remove Am Yisrael from the tree of life, from the Torah, they become the biggest thugs out there. Robbers, gangsters, you name it. Then they become Az Sheba'amim. And we have to remember that. If you take the Torah out of the Jew, you don't know what's going to happen. Therefore, when Etz Hadat, the tree of knowledge, was separated from Etz HaChaim, right? We separated science from Torah. Torah u'madah. We separated science from Torah. All of a sudden, science became an entity by itself that we use many times as a battering ram to bash any concept that the Torah presents to us. It has to go hand in hand with what the Torah says. You can learn science, but you have to always understand that it has to be connected to the Torah. It cannot contradict the Torah. If you see it all the time, how we take concept of science and we use this all the time to try to uproot the emunah of the Jew. Always. Whether it's evolution or revolution. Always have to be b'derech HaTorah. Always connected to Etz HaChaim. So, and when we don't do so, of course, we bring evil. We're allowing evil to exist in the world. Let me see how. Oh my God, this is long. All right, this is very long. So Moshe threw that wood into the water. By bringing the tree or the wood back to its source, he was able to fix the kilkul, the damage in which the Satan did, making the water sweet again, right? And we know that Etz HaChaim by itself was bitter, as the Chachamim learned in Mechilta, and because of that, it was a miracle, and make the bitter, when you add something bitter, to become sweet. And it says, Vayisam Moshe et Israel miyam suf v'yitzeu midbar shur, and it tells them where they were going, and they went 3 days in the desert, and they didn't find water, and Marata, and the whole entire thing. And Vayitzak el Hashem vayoru, and he cried to Hashem, and Hashem instructed him, Vayoru Hashem etz vayashlech el hamayim vayimtak, when he threw it to the water, it became sweet. V'sham sam lo chok mishpat v'sham nisau. Then he gave him rules, and then he tried them. Like, what is this? Like, grammatically, it doesn't make sense. Vayomer, and he told him, Im shamoa tishma lekol Hashem elokecha, if you would hear carefully to what Hashem tells you, vayashar be'enav ta'aseh, and you're going to do exactly what he wants from you, ve'hazanta lemitzvotav, and you would listen to his commandments, ve'shamarta et kol chukav. At that point, kol ha'machala asher samti b'mitzrayim lo asim alecha. Why? Ki ani Hashem rofecha. Look at what he's telling us here. From the need of Moshe to bring Am Yisrael from Yam Suf and on, and they're always complaining and so on and so forth. Baal HaAkedah, who's Baal HaAkedah? Arav Arama. He learned how difficult it was for Am Yisrael, that separation from the culture of Egypt. And it was very difficult because not only that, they had like anxiety separation, and on top of that, they were attacked as well. And the switch that they had to go from Chukei Mitzrayim, from the Egyptian law, or they call it the Egyptian constitution, to the Torah/Jewish constitution, was very traumatic for them. I mean, after all, they lived in Egypt and lived by those rules for many years. And in the eyes of the Torah, the laws of Egypt is called abomination, to'eva. The ways of the Egyptians is called to'eva. So the difficulty of Am Yisrael was not only in the separation from the Egyptian culture, but also transforming itself to something that is completely opposite of what they got used to until now, and many times. And I can tell you this, many times until today. Maybe not to you guys, Baruch Hashem, because you're learning Torah. But for many people out there, the laws of Egypt seem to be more appealing than the laws of the Torah. If we are talking about same-sex marriage and all kind of things like that they used to do in Egypt, to a person who is not a Torah scholar or knows Torah, will say, this is terrible. They have a right. They're also good people. Nobody said that those people are bad people. But I have to follow what the Torah tells me. I don't hate anybody, but I'm telling them you're doing wrong. Just as much as somebody would drive on Shabbat, I'll tell you, listen, buddy, you're doing wrong. But we seem to praise that in the sense of selfishness, of self-entitlement. We take the Torah and we throw it around because it seemed to us well, not because we agree with those ways, but simply because one day, it's like this thing, the IOU. One day, we'll put it out and we're going to say, hey, it's my turn now to do what is right for me. So I would agree with you, even though I know it's wrong, so you would agree with me one day when we both know it's wrong. That's why things are being done like that. And we need to understand that. And as much as and that's what was the nisayon. The nisayon was etz chaim lamachzikim ba, right? So מה זה עץ חיים למחזיקים בה? Because the bitter water that became sweet, so is the Torah Hashem. At the beginning, it seems to you as a foreign thing. It's a difficult thing. After a while, it becomes sweet to you. Sweet. You just need to connect yourself to the tree of life, and the Torah becomes sweet. And Baal HaAkedah points out that that's the way in which we need to go and develop in this process until we get ourselves even fixed. Not only the place, ourselves fixed. And he writes the following in Shar Mem. ואפשר שירמוז גם כן על אופן הדרכה והגעה על תיקונם. This will hint us also on how to reach the point in which you need to reach, the end, the tikkun. ולזה הורה להם, and that's why he told them, עץ, a tree. Why? כי האדם עץ השדה. Whatever happened with the tree, you can learn also about the person. Because that's the way to do it. Just a metaphor that we use. וכמוהו לא יבוקש ממנו פריו מתוקן, כי אם אחר העבודה והעבודות הצריכות לו בעניין הניקוש והעידור והזמור and so on. In other words, in order for the tree to bear fruit, you must do all the necessary jobs that you do on the tree. You need to take the weeds out, you need to water it, you need to plow it, you need to prune it, and all the things like this. The same thing that we need to do. A person is not going to become a tzaddik overnight. It is a process that you have to do until you see that your efforts are actually bearing fruit. It's a process that we need to do. And that's why he says to them, Vayomer im shamoa tishma. That's why he said to him at the beginning, if you would listen to what I'm saying to you. Tchila lishmoa. First you have to listen. Ve'achar ha'asiyah. And then you have to start doing. Even that you need to see what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, but you need to start doing things. After that, you're going to reach a level in which you're going to be shomer dechukim, guarding, and that is the essence of emunah. Now, And how it's going to come to you? It's going to come already when you are tired and you are weary. And that's when the emunah you're going to really see. Are you going to push it through, or you're actually going to give up? I saw a fascinating thing. In Japan, there is a cult, they call Umangashi or something like this. This priests or monks that they do very difficult things. And the initiation project over there is they wear very thin shoes, and their job is to go within one day up to a certain mountain all the way up, and then to go all the way down. And it's a very difficult, strenuous ordeal, especially to your feet. And it's hard, and climbing a mountain, it's not easy. And then after that, they sit under a waterfall with water pounding on you. It's hard, and you're getting cramps because it's cold, freezing water. And after that, they sit in meditation. If you fell asleep, you're not going over this. And I said, why is this? I said, well, that's exactly it. You really, when you're strong and you're good, then the Kol Tov V'Yafeh, that's not a test. But when you're tired and you're in pain, if you pass the test, you're worthy to be in. And that's what we had here. Am Israel was tired. The Egyptian, after years, and the Egyptian chased them, and it was the ocean, and they had bitter water. Well, now let's see your emunah. That's exactly what it is. That process that happened to them from Yetziat Mitzrayim was a process of making them into a nation. And so is to us. We have to go through these difficulties in order to grow from them, not to fail from there. And your test of emunah comes not when you are comfortable and convenient and everything goes your way. The test of emunah is when things don't go your way, when you are tired, when you're weary, when you're about to give up. But the only reason why you don't give up is because you have emunah. And that's a tremendous limud for us to do so. And at the end, hopefully, if we're going to do so, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to take away all the machala that we had on Mitzrayim, whatever the disease was in Mitzrayim, including the lack of emunah in Kadosh Baruch Hu and his abilities. That is something that we all need to really contemplate on and internalize. Is the process that we are going through, the understanding that even things are bitter, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a miraculous way to make it happen. We have to understand that. We have to constantly be involved and looking for ways and new ways to be in the part that builds, not the part that destroys. We have to remove from ourselves all those bad weeds as a tree in order to bear fruit. All the bad weeds that take all the spiritual nourishments from the roots of our tree. We have to connect ourselves to the Torah, to Etz HaChaim. And we have to identify those particular individuals that all their effort, with many times very good camouflage, is the bottom line is to make sure that the Jew would not learn Torah. In other words, that the Jew would not be connected to Etz HaChaim. And sometime, unfortunately, these people, as they said, there is an enemy among us. These are the people that would do whatever they can in their power to stop us, and even for a moment, to learn Torah, for any other thing. We must identify and eradicate those forces from the world. And we need to not only do that, we also need to find the evil itself and reconnect it to its good root in order to be able to complete the tikkun that Adam HaRishon had caused us. This is something that we all, with our abilities, individual, we can do ourselves, for ourselves, but on a greater scale can only be done if we'll become a united nation of people who are interested in promoting and supporting Torah. Without that, we are disconnected and we are accessible to all forces of evil that would basically make us disappear. Lishmoa ledivre Hashem is to listen to the words of the Torah, to the words of Chachamim, to respect Chachamim, and to be a partner in Torah, a partner in not destruction, in construction, building, bringing peace among one another. And everything should be done b'darkei shalom. And that's why when we take the Torah out from the Eichal, we say, Hashivenu elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yamenu kekedem. How are we going to do it? It's chaim hi lamachzikim ba. We have to hold on to the Torah. B'zchut zeh, we will have chaim shel shalom, chaim shel briut, and we'll be able to finish the tikkun b'mera.